رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. If everyone here were to ask themselves a question, if you were to ask yourselves, at what point in your life have you made the most sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What point in your life have you felt the most religious, or have you tried to become closest to Allah Azza wa Jalla? And chances are that most of us would answer in a time of difficulty. In a time of hardship is when we had the most sincere dua, where we were going through some sort of struggle, whatever it may be. Maybe it was a financial crisis, maybe it was a family struggle, maybe it was some sort of emotional pain from a loved one that we lost, maybe it was a job that we couldn't get. Whatever it may be, most likely that is the point in your life where you got down, you made perfect wudu, you prayed salah with perfect khushu, and you raised your hands to the sky and asked Allah with a sincere heart. See, this is not my personal observation. In fact, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself points out in the Quran. Allah says in Surah Rum, وَإِذَا نَسَّ النَّاسَ ذُرٌ دُعَاء رَبُّهُمْ. When calamity befalls mankind, that is when they discover Allah. That is when they make sincere dua to their Lord. And Allah is not necessarily criticizing this, right? Quran is not necessarily saying that there's something wrong with this. In fact, He's just pointing out a simple human reaction, right? And it's normal. Is when you are in trouble as a human being, you're faced with adversity, the normal reaction for you is to turn to your Creator, your Rabb, turn to Allah and make dua to Him and reach out to Him for help. Now ask yourself a different question. How often have you felt that your life is just too hard, or bad things are always happening to you for some reason? Your plans are never going as planned. There's always ill things happening to you, and you just have the worst luck. Right? Unfortunately, sometimes this is something that we ask ourselves, or something that we say to ourselves quite often, right? And the reason why we say these things to ourselves is because our perception of our lives in this dunya can sometimes be a little bit flawed. Right? We have these expectations that we've come up with ourselves that if we plan, things should go according to our way. There shouldn't be any mishaps, right? Everything should go according to plan, and there shouldn't be any problems. When in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never actually promised us that kind of life. He's never actually told us that this dunya is going to be without any struggles, without any hardships, without any calamities. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, "Ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir." This world, this dunya, is a prison for the believer and a paradise for the non-believer. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never actually promised us that this journey in life is going to be soothing and calm and without any struggles. However, He has promised us a safe landing. If we hold true to the word of Allah, if we follow and obey Allah, and if we seek guidance from Him and Him alone when facing all of our different adversities and struggles. So inshallah, today I don't want to talk about all of the different kinds of struggles that many of us go through, because we already know that, right? Who better knows our own struggles than ourselves, right? But what I want to talk about today is how we can utilize Islam, how we can leverage our deen, and how we can seek and use Allah's guidance to help face some of the different calamities and struggles that we go through on a day-to-day basis. And inshallah, I want to highlight 3 points today that will help us to combat all of the tests and hardships that we go through on a day-to-day basis. So the first point is that before we even go to tackle some of the obstacles that come in our way and in our lives, before we even think about planning a course of action, what we need to first do is trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us, and trust that Allah loves us, right? And sometimes you wouldn't think so, but that can be hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to grasp onto something that's not material like that. But don't ever think bad of Allah. Don't ever think that Allah has forsaken you. As Muslims, it's our core belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. Right? It's part of our belief. And we shouldn't ever think that Allah's forgotten about us or forsaken us, because it's simply not true. And you may ask, okay, well, how do you know? How can you be so sure? Right? We go through so many of these problems. Right? If Allah really loved me, then maybe He would make my life easier. And the proof, one of the proofs that Allah loves us is through His mercy. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us mercy in so many different ways. SubhanAllah. In Surah Zumar, ayah 53, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Muhammad, O Muhammad, tell them, my worshippers who have transgressed against themselves, to never, ever lose hope in the mercy of Allah. To never lose hope in the mercy of Allah, for He will forgive all of your sins. For indeed He is Al-Ghafurur Rahim, most forgiving, most merciful. Allah doesn't say He'll forgive some of your sins. He doesn't say He's going to forgive X, Y, and Z. He says He's going to forgive all of your sins. All that we must do is make the small initiative and reach out to Him. Right? Another example of Allah's mercy, in a Sahih Hadith, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after one of the battles, there was a lot of people were running helter-skelter. Right? After one of the battles, everyone was running around, and amongst those people was a woman. And the woman was running around and frightened and scared and crying because she couldn't find her child. And as she was running around, she finally, when she did find her child, she was so overwhelmed with joy, and she was crying, and immediately she took the child and began to feed them. And while this was happening, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there witnessing this, and all the Sahaba were there witnessing this. And at that point, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to the Sahaba, do you think that this woman could throw her child into a fire? And the Sahaba are confused, saying, Ya Rasulullah, of course not, how could she? Right? She has so much love for her child. To which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded, I swear that Allah has more love and more mercy towards His creation than this mother does to her child. SubhanAllah. We all know, we're all familiar with this strange phenomenon of a mother's love for her child. It's inexplicable. Right? Nowhere else do we see that kind of love in the world like that. Right? We know mothers will do the craziest things for their children. To be with their children, to make sure they're safe, to provide for them. And here, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us that Allah's love is so much more than a mother's love for their child. No matter how bad of a person you think you have become, or how many sins you've engaged in, or all the bad things, whatever you may have done, Allah will always be there for you. And we need to internalize this. All we need to do is ask. In a Hadith Qudsi narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah the Most High said, I am as my servant thinks I am. I am with him when he mentions me. When my servant mentions me to himself, I mention him to myself. And when my servant mentions me in a gathering, I mention him in a greater gathering. And when my servant draws near to me in hand's length, I draw near to him in arm's length. And when my servant comes walking towards me, I go to him in speed. SubhanAllah. All we need to do is make a small effort to reach out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will automatically come to us with even more effort. And sometimes it's really easy to fall into this trap, right? We keep thinking, okay, if He loves us, then what's the point of these tests that we go through? How can you explain why would Allah take so much wealth away from me and my family when we're struggling to put food on the table? I need a job and I can't get anything. Why is Allah putting me through this test? It doesn't make any sense. But doesn't it? Doesn't it? Think about back to the beginning of the khutbah. the question that we ask ourselves, what point in life did we feel the most sincere in our hearts? When we felt the closest to Allah? When we were facing some sort of struggle, right? If we went through our entire life and we didn't have any problems and it was just smooth sailing, maybe we wouldn't be worshiping Allah. Or, maybe we would. Maybe we'd be praying. Maybe we'd even be praying 5,000 a day. But it'll never compare to the spirituality that we attain when our backs are up against the wall and we have no choice but to turn to our Rabb and ask Him sincerely. So inshallah, the thing to keep in mind here is that, irrespective of gathering, that whenever, before you even try to face any calamities or any problems in your life, any test, before you take any action, internalize this fact that Allah is always with you and Allah loves you. Inshallah, the second point that I want to outline is that ease comes with hardship. Ease, indeed, ease comes with hardship. When things become hardest, when your problems, they seem like the difficulty has just reached the peak, right? I can't take anymore. That's not the time for us to give up. That's not the time for us to stop struggling. In fact, that's the time that we need to take one more step. We need to try harder. We need to push harder. Because indeed, Allah's relief comes at the peak when the difficulty is at its peak. In one of the most famous ayats of the Quran that I'm sure many of us have memorized, and even young children have memorized, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ma'al usri yusra, inna ma'al usri yusra. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. And many of the Mufassirun have commented on this surah and specifically these ayat, right? We can go on for days and days about the tafsir of this. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that Allah is repeating this ayat, right? Whenever we're talking to someone or whenever we are reaching out to an audience, if we repeat something, the point is for our audience to focus on that, right? To kind of take a step back and really internalize the fact. But it goes way deeper than this. It goes so much deeper than this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ma'al usri yusra. With. Allah doesn't say, indeed, after hardship comes ease. Allah specifically says, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Right? And this is not like it's some kind of oversight or just by chance Allah has to pick these words. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most wise. He has a purpose for saying, for structuring the ayat like this. We can all think back to some point in our life when we were going through some struggle, and we thought, this is not getting better. I'm not finding the solution. But after a little bit, Allah came with a solution, and we were able to figure out our problems. Right? We all have at least one experience like this that we can really, if we really think back, we can all think back to it. Or if you're making dua to Allah, and you're making dua every single day, and Allah grants your dua. Maybe not even in the way that you expected, but in a different way. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. And going even further, one thing that I found very interesting, some of the scholars actually have an additional interpretation of these two ayat, where they say the hardship in these two ayat is the same difficulty. But the yusr, the ease, the point of ease, Allah is actually referring to a different point of ease in the first ayat, and He's referring to a different point of ease in the second ayat. So what does this mean? This means that what this surah is actually referring to is, with every one hardship that faces you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you 2 points of ease. SubhanAllah. This is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, to keep in mind, when we are trying to combat all of our different struggles, and when we are going through these problems in life, of course we need to make sure we address them, but we can't make this the center focus of our lives. We need to make sure to remember that we have other responsibilities. Yes, we have these problems and we need to go ahead and solve them somehow, but that can't be the only thing that we focus on. We have familial obligations, we have obligations for our job. We need to make sure that we keep that balance, right? A lot of metaphor that people use is life is like a bicycle. The only way to keep balance is to keep moving forward. So inshallah, those of us who are struggling with anything right now and feel that the difficulty is becoming too strong, now is not the time to give up. Now is the time to keep moving forward and trust that the ease is coming soon. Inshallah, the third point that I want to highlight is that every time you go through some sort of calamity or challenge, right? Every time you are faced with some sort of obstacle in your life, try to understand the wisdom behind it. Right? One thing that all of us can agree on is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hakim, the most wise, right? No matter what type of Islam you are following, everybody will agree with this. Allah is the most knowing, the most wise. Because again, that's part of our core belief. And anytime you're faced with a struggle or obstacle, try to understand what the wisdom might be behind it. Now, unfortunately, we can't predict the future, or we can't tell what the future looks like, right? So if there's a struggle that we're going with currently, we can't possibly predict what the future might be. But we can always retrospectively analyze some of our problems that we've dealt with in the past and try to extract what the wisdoms were behind it, whether it be our own problems or whether it be someone else's issues, right? A great example is one of the most famous scholars of his time. This scholar is known for so many renowned books and teachings, and what many people don't know about this scholar is that when he was younger, he actually wanted to become a doctor, right? He wanted to study medicine. So he set out, he got his books, he started studying, and while he was studying, he realized that he's just not comprehending the material. He's just not understanding, and he's not understanding the material whatsoever. And he started thinking, why is this, what is wrong with me? So this scholar actually, or this man who was trying to study to become a doctor, he actually started studying the Sharia instead. And throughout his life, he put out so many works and became so famous and so knowledgeable, became one of the most profound scholars of his time, of Islam. That man grew up to be Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah. And one of his books is called Riyadh al-Salihin. I'm sure many of us have heard of it. Can be found in almost every corner of the earth. SubhanAllah, Imam al-Nawawi has attained so much barakah, and imagine if he had become the doctor, maybe he wouldn't have been that famous. Maybe he wouldn't have been able to spread this much knowledge. In the time when he thought he was a complete failure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had other plans for him, and SubhanAllah made him a complete success. Allah puts us through different challenges, not because He wants to crumble us, or not because He wants us to subside or break us. It's because He wants to challenge us to become bigger, better, and stronger at the end of it. One of the most valuable gems or stones on the face of this earth is a diamond. You can say the black diamond. And one of the most useless or invaluable stones compared to that is coal. Right? Now, what many people might not know is that the difference between the diamond and the coal is very little. In fact, they're both made up of the same carbon atoms. Their chemical composition is very similar. The only difference is that the diamond, the structure of the carbon atoms in the diamond is it's made in such a way, Allah's built it in such a way that when pressure is applied to that diamond, it's able to withstand the pressure, and it's able to take the force. And as a result of that, it's a beautiful shining diamond. Whereas the coal, its chemical compound is made with the same carbon atoms, but it's in such a structure that when force is applied to it, it crumbles and disintegrates. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built us as human beings like the diamond. We are built to be able to take that force. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not challenge us or test us with anything that we can't tackle or anything that we can't face. Right? Another example of wisdom that you might not always see is recently many of you would be following the news, and after the events of the immigration ban, right, quote unquote the Muslim ban, there's a lot of problems for Muslims in the community, right? Sometimes people were saying it's a little bit tough to be Muslim or outwardly be Muslim right now. There are so many problems for people the airports, weren't able to get back home. They weren't able to see their families. There were problems with refugees not being able to escape the persecution in their home countries. Right? Even in the greater community, right? There was masajid that were being burned down to the ground. And many people were asking, right? Asking themselves, why does this happen? This is such a bad time. This is such a bad calamity for the Muslims. But at the same time, because of the huge spotlight that was cast down on the Muslim community, there were non-Muslims who were trying to see what's going on. Who are these group of people, these Muslims, and why is such bad things happening with them? What's going on here? And when they found out what's actually really happening, these same non-Muslims, they came out of their house. They went to their airports. They stood there and protested for hours with the Muslims, for the Muslims. SubhanAllah. People who don't even share the same faith as us, but they understand what's going on, and because of all the media and all the commotion and everything that's going on about Muslims, they learn what is really the case, right? What is the real belief? And it was just a beautiful sight to see so many different Muslims praying together in congregation in an airport, right? When was the last time you saw something like that? Hundreds of Muslims praying together in an airport. And you saw the videos of either Christians or people who weren't Muslims circling around the Muslims who were praying in the airport to protect them. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Just another example of the hikmah and the wisdom that Allah bestows down on us as a result of some of these different tests. So in conclusion, dear respected gathering, so many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us through different challenges in life, right? But because of these hardships, or He puts us through these hardships not to break us, right? Not so that we can be weak, but to challenge us to become better and stronger at the end of it. What Allah is interested is in helping us grow and helping us reach out to Him. And another reason for these tests is so that we can realign our focus, right? Because sometimes we get distracted. Our focus is not the worldly successes of this dunya, right? Although there's nothing wrong with that. We can definitely chase the success in this dunya, no problem. But that's not our main focus, right? That's a side goal. These 40, 60, 80, 100 years, there's nothing compared to infinity. Our main goal is to one day reach Jannah and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, Ya Allah, it was hard. It was difficult. It was hard to put that hijab on. It was hard to pray 5 times a day. It was hard to stay away from that which you prescribed to be impermissible when there was so much around me telling me to engage in that. It was difficult, but Ya Allah, I still persevered and I struggled and I came this way just for your sake. Imagine how beautiful of a moment that would be. So inshallah, just to finish with a quick story, another very famous scholar, his name is Al-Hafid ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah. He's famous for providing a lot of commentary on Sahih Bukhari, right, the works of Sahih Bukhari. And this scholar, at his time, mashallah, he was very wealthy, very good looking, he dressed very nice, right? He even attained some level of power within his local government. Had a lot of things going for him, mashallah, and very knowledgeable, right? Very knowledgeable. So one day, Ibn Hajar was walking through the marketplace. And he's walking with his dress, which is nice dress and everything. And on the side, there's one of the vendors, an oil seller. Someone who sells oil that go into the lamps. All right, and he calls out to him and says, Ya Ibn Hajar, doesn't your prophet tell you, ad-dunya sijn al-mu'min wa jannatul kafir? Doesn't your prophet tell you that this world is a prison for believers like you and Jannah, a paradise for non-believers like me? I openly reject Allah. I have no interest in what the teachings of your prophet say. I openly say I'm not interested and don't believe in that. Yet look at me. I'm in these shabby clothes, selling oil on the side of the street. And look at you. MashaAllah. You are dressed so nicely. You have so much wealth that you've attained. You have power. You have everything. So what kind of prison, what kind of Jannah am I living in? And what kind of prison are you living in? He challenged Ibn Hajar, right? What about the expectations that you had? And so to that Ibn Hajar responds, as for me, compared to what I'm expecting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter, everything that I have, this is like a prison to me, compared to everything that I'm expecting. And as for you, compared to what you're destined for at this rate, even what you have or don't, even the conditions that you're living in right now, is considered a paradise for what you are set to be destined. SubhanAllah. And so, of course, at this, the oil seller immediately starts crying, goes to Ibn Hajar, and accepts Islam. So, inshallah, we can keep in mind that the next time we are facing some sort of calamity, we can keep these 3 points in mind. The first point, to trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us and Allah loves us. The second point, to understand that the ease comes with hardship, side by side. And the third, to try to understand the hikmah or the wisdom behind the different challenges and struggles that Allah puts on us to help face some of these challenges. And may Allah give us the capability to withstand all the struggles we're dealt with in our lives. May Allah make it easy on us, on those of us who are going through any tests or struggles or problems or calamities. May Allah remove any future obstacles from our paths. May Allah grant us tawfiq and guidance to deal with all that is headed our way, inshallah.